Hi guys, Chris Fern here. I wanted to do something a little bit different this time. I'm going to do an action figure review. I recently picked up the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie action figures. They're from the Legacy line. They're based on the 95 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. I just want to go over a couple of things that I noticed when I was messing around with them. Let me get Tommy out. One of the things that I noticed first was they're very well sculpted. All the armor detail that you would expect is there. If you look at them up close, you can see all of the panel lining. All of the textures are there. It would have been nice if they'd done a combination flat gloss, like done like a flat paint to match the undersuit. But Bandai never does stuff like that, so I'm really not surprised to see it not there. I would have liked to have seen the interchangeable emblems on the chests. Maybe just had them like peg in. The boxes make a note of the Ninja Zords versus the Thunder Zords. And so it would have been nice to be able to make the chest emblems match that. The Triceratops, Tiger Zord, all that. Just a simple peg would have worked. Maybe a little notch that you can get your finger underneath and just pop it off. But that's not a deal breaker, just would have been nice to have. The helmets are well sculpted and very well detailed. The paint apps are very clean. My Tommy figure does have a indentation along the face of it, which you probably can't see in the video. It's annoying, but, what are you going to do? My biggest complaint is the articulation. They are very limited in articulation. You can rotate the arm 360 degrees. The shoulders move out, not even 90 degrees. They have a single elbow bend. It's not a huge deal, but would have been nice to have like maybe a double joint. They've got a rotation at the wrist. It's on a ball joint, but because of the way it's sculpted, you can't get much movement out of it, so it's not a huge deal. One thing I noticed it doesn't have that I really would have liked to have had, especially with Tommy, is there's no bicep swivel. So Tommy can't pose with the arm across his chest like he's swinging or whatever. It would make for some really nice and dynamic sword poses, but he can't do them. It would also be really nice to be able to have Saba in his hand up against his helmet, like he's talking to it. The packaging for the Legacy Saba, in fact, has him do that pose, so it would have been nice if the figure could do it. But you can't do that with these figures. Saba's painted pretty well. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of maybe a dark wash up on top of his head, but otherwise it's pretty well done. But the legs move up about so far, they move out. They're on like sort of a little hinge. It's very similar to how the elbows are done. It's a single jointed knee. There's a boot cut right above the cuff. They have ankle articulation, but it's so limited it's not even worth mentioning. You can't do anything with it, so you might be able to get like a half an inch spread on the legs, but not enough to do any cool poses. It does make me wonder why they even included it, though. I'm not Bandai, though, so I'm not the one making these kinds of decisions. I also picked up a couple of the other Rangers. Here's the Yellow Ranger. She has all the same articulation as Tommy. A little bit more mobility in the ankles because of the smaller size of the legs, the sculpting. You might be able to get yay wide stance on it, but still, like maybe if you want to do some karate poses, you might be able to get something out of that, but the limited arm articulation kind of kills that, though. She comes with really well sculpted paint apps. There's some smudges on the back of the figure there. The white diamonds, there's some like little black smudges. But I was surprised to see those painted, which, the paint on the neck is a little bit thin, where you can see the yellow of the plastic kind of come in. And the cuffs on the gloves are molded in a white plastic. And that means that the elbow joint is also molded in white, and so they paint the yellow and other colors onto the elbows. And the yellow that they used on the Yellow Ranger is nowhere even close to being a match. It's a very bright yellow versus the, slightly duller yellow that's used for the plastic. She also comes with an alternate head to do the headlights. It kind of reminds me of the bear, honestly. Like, they might have been trying to hearken to that. The sculpt on the helmet's fine, but I would have liked to have seen some paint apps on the headlights. Maybe a whiter yellow to make them look like they're glowing. Maybe even a glow-in-the-dark paint. That would be kind of cool. But, yeah, that might be asking just a little bit too much of Bandai here. I also picked up the Red Ranger, Rocky. Again, it's the same exact articulation as Tommy. He has a few smudge marks on the back of his diamonds as well. Seems to be something that's recurring amongst the Ranger figures. Other than that, though, his paint apps are really clean. The elbows actually match the arms pretty well. He comes with an alternate head to do the scanning visor. It's cool that they included it. It's a neat accessory, but the Yellow Ranger's helmet seems to be sculpted on the same head, or, similarly enough that there's not that big of a difference. But the Red Ranger's, it's either a separate sculpt or something happened to the mold, because the visor helmet, I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but the helmet it's noticeably thinner than the normal Tyrannosaurus helmet. And if you put them side by side, the Tyrannosaurus helmet's pretty normal, like it should be, whereas the visor helmet's kind of squished. I've encountered it with some other figures that I've collected. Matty Collector's Ghostbusters line, all the Ray figures in particular stand out. There's also the 12-inch Venkman. It's a shame that they would let that happen, but it would have been nice if it had the slightly bulkier helmet look of the original. And it ends up looking more alien than human, and I don't think that's what they were going for in this. The Tyrannosaurus helmet, actually, the teeth are really, really cleanly painted on. I don't know if they did a decal or a really good mask, but there's no overspray or anything like that. And it came out really, really well. It's not something I'm used to seeing on Bandai figures, so I had to applaud them on that. The last figure I got was the Blue Ranger Billy. Overall, his paint apps are pretty clean. Same articulation as the others. No real major paint problems. There's some underspray around his neck, but that's not a real big deal. They did a really good job on the sculpts and the paint. The helmet looks great. And they have the small little details that most people didn't even know they had in the movie, like the little diamond on the back of the Yellow Ranger helmets, the texture on the back of Billy's helmet. There's a similar texture on the back of Tommy's, and it's kind of cool to see that they would include that, because most people wouldn't even notice it wasn't there. So it's kind of cool to see that Bandai would include that. The sculpting on these figures is really nice. The paint apps are pretty decent. And to see fully detailed and fully painted figures from Bandai it's so rare that you have to kind of just applaud them for it. Particularly their Power Rangers lines. That said, the articulation is a killer. The very limited articulation really limits the amount of posing that you can do with them. And for a line that's really targeted an adult collector, the price tag, the age of the films, it's the legacy line. Most kids haven't even heard of this movie, let alone seen it. For the price, it would have been nice to see the articulation done a little bit better. It's not something we usually see from Bandai figures. They usually don't do a lot of articulation, but it would have been nice to see them at least try. There's the Sentai Hero Figure Arts line, but I'm not expecting that level of articulation or accessories. But when you compare it to the quality of figures you get from other figure companies like Hasbro, the Black Series, the Star Wars Black Series, Mattel's Matty Collector's Ghostbusters line was about the same price when it first came out. Marvel Legends figures, so for them not to be able to do some of the poses that you would associate with Power Rangers is kind of a problem. I'd rather have seen, dynamic statues where they're doing, really cool poses. And, maybe with like a diorama base, and those I think would have been far, far better for the price point. These limited articulation figures are really just kind of lame. These are a pass for me. I won't be picking up the rest of the line, and I'll probably try and unload these. They're not good figures, not for the price, not for the articulation. I mean, if you like them, feel free to post that, your opinion on them, or if you agree with me. They're just not my cup of tea. I'm going to try and do a few more, I guess more action figure reviews. I've got the Diamond Select Ghostbusters figures on pre-order, and I'll do some comparisons of those as they come out. I've got the Matty Collector Comic-Con exclusive Courtroom Egon, which I'll do a side-by-side comparison with the Courtroom Egon that I customized. And I'll try and do a review of the Rocketeer figure that I picked up as well. That was about the same price and has much, much better articulation. It's a much better figure. So, to get all these at the same time and get one that's so vastly superior, these were just a real disappointment. If you see these, I would pass on them. I kind of wish I'd passed on them now, but I'd been looking forward to them, and I was excited. And when I found them, I couldn't resist. My recommendation is to just avoid them. Don't waste your money and spend it on something else. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.